Take it in. And again. And one more time. I don't know about the rest of you, but I needed that today. I am more than just a little bit disturbed by the happenings in our world right now. And I'm finding it challenging to stay centered. Finding it challenging to know the truth with all the divisiveness going on and the anger and the violence and the lack of common decency that I'm seeing everywhere. And even though I know it is in me that right action is taking place because the nature of the universe is love, the nature of the universe is growth. So I know that ultimately right action is taking place. It's difficult to remember it sometimes in the face of what feels like just its opposite. And yet, being the good metaphysician that I like to think that I am, I know that the outside world and my experience of the outside world is a reflection of what's going on inside of me. That's our basic teaching. So if I'm seeing and I'm experiencing discord or divisiveness out there, it is because there is something in here that needs to be healed. In fact, a few weeks ago, there was a lot of stuff going on. And I realize we're in Canada, but boy, does that stuff in the U.S. bleed over into our consciousnness, doesn't it? It's just we can't seem to get away from it. So, I like this thing called Facebook, right? And so I like to wax poetic on Facebook every once in a while. And this is what I wrote. Not that I'm want you to say that I'm such a great writer, but this is kind of talking about what I'm talking about. And this was during the Supreme Court thing that was taking place about 3 weeks ago. Like many, I'm upset and unsettled by all that has happened in the world the past few weeks. Mostly what I'm upset about is how utterly divisive everything is. It's all so ugly. However, the divisiveness did not start with one person, one event, one election. It is deep and profound. It's also happening in other parts of the world. There is an old-time metaphysical term called chemicalization. Simply put, when a new idea is coming into fruition, everything unlike it bubbles up to be healed or dissolved. It can be ugly, hurtful, yet ultimately necessary. I keep this in mind when my stomach is in knots, a lump forms in my throat, and I want to scream at the powers that be. I must trust and know that I live in a friendly universe that is here for us, despite appearances. In the words of Julian of Norwich, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. In the meantime, I pray, and I do my internal work to heal the divisiveness within me. Well, the universe has a funny way of showing up for me when I make a bold statement like that. To say, yeah, how about now? Yeah, how about now? How about now? So last week, I also did an in-your-face talk last week, too, about just saying no to things. And somebody came through the line and asked me if I would do a talk on Oponopono. Are you here? Lady, Maria, of course, yes, okay. She asked me to do a talk on Oponopono, which we're going to learn about. So Oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian healing method that was made popular by Dr. Joe Vitale. Remember him from The Secret? And then he wrote some more about it. And Ho'oponopono is loosely translated as to make things right or to rectify an error. Ho'oponopono. Say that. Ho'oponopono. I've heard it pronounced several different times today. So you're going to talk about ho-pa-pa-pa-po-po, ho-pee-pee-na-pa-na-po. Ho'oponopono, to make right or to rectify an error. Now this, I need to tell you right now, is not strictly science of mind. But it is a very powerful practice that can enhance the work that we're already doing. But before I teach you about it, I need to do a couple of concepts about our teaching called the science of mind, not to be confused with Scientology, of course, but a couple of concepts about our teaching science of mind. And one of the most challenging things to remember, one of the most challenging things to accept and to understand about this teaching, and I spoke a little bit about it earlier, and that is that we are teaching a personal self-responsibility. Personal self-responsibility. Now, I know all of us are like, well, I'm self-responsible most of the time, to a point. But what we teach in Science of Mind is that we are responsible for all of the things that happen in our lives. We teach that what we put out with our thoughts, remember it's called the science of mind, so what we are putting out with our thoughts, what we are believing within our beliefs, what we are saying, and how we are acting is what gets attracted back to us. What goes around comes around. Basic science of mind teaching. The law of cause and effect, what goes around comes around. In fact, our founder, Ernest Holmes, put it this way. Man is free to choose anything which he wishes, but he must accept the responsibility for his choices, because inexorable law will create his experiences according to his choices. Inexorable law, that law of cause and effect, what goes around comes around. And you know what, this is a pretty easy concept when things are going good. Yeah, look what I'm creating. It's a whole other thing to accept full responsibility when things are not going so well. It takes courage to look at the icky circumstances of life and ask, how did I contribute to this? How did I create this? How am I responsible for this? The good news is there's an amazing feeling of freedom and choice when we start to be self-responsible for our lives, because when we are responsible, we understand that if we created it, we can change it. Yes? Are y'all with me? Okay. So one of the ways that we can do this is through this process called Ho'oponopono. In explaining the process, Joe Vitale, because he's kind of the one who brought it to us, right? He tells the story of interviewing a Hawaiian psychologist by the name of I can't tell you how many times I've practiced this name, and now I have to say it again. Dr. Ihaliakala Hugh Len. I'm not even going to try to say it again. We're just going to call him Dr. Len from now on, okay? Yeah. So Dr. Len learned about this. This is an ancient Hawaiian tradition. Ancient and effective. And so he learned the technique and he practiced Ho'oponopono to heal a hospital ward filled with criminally insane patients. And he did it without meeting any of them. How, you may ask? I'll tell you. Because Ho'oponopono requires the utmost self-responsibility, what he would do is study the inmate's chart and then look within himself to see how he created this person's illness. I know this is hard. It's a little far-fetched. Stick with me, okay? You know, my job, I've told you guys this before, my job is not to tell you what to think. I'm teaching you to think. I encourage you to think. But my job is also to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. So I'm afflicting you right now. Well, if I need my nails, huh? Okay, so it actually makes a whole lot of sense and sticks with our teaching. So I'm going to just kind of give you a paraphrase excerpt of this story that Joe Vitale wrote about Dr. Len. So I want you to picture this. The ward where they kept these criminally insane patients was dangerous. People would walk down the halls like this with their back to the walls for fear of being attacked by the patients. Staff and psychologists quit on a regular basis. It was an awful place to work. It was an awful place to live. It was just an awful place to be. So Dr. Len had a reputation for being able to do this kind of work, so they asked him if he would consult about this, and he said, yes, I will agree to review the files, but I am not going to actually meet the patients. Okay? Instead, what he did was he sat with the files and he would work on himself. And as he worked on himself, the patients began to heal. Patients who were shackled were being allowed to walk free. Those who were heavily medicated, they lightened up on the medication. Those who had no chance of ever getting out were being freed because they were being healed. Absenteeism, turnover of the staff and the psychologists completely disappeared, and eventually, ultimately, that particular ward in the hospital was closed because there was no more need for it. And when he was asked what he did with himself to bring about a change for other people, he said, I simply healed the part of me that created them. Just stick with me here. Now, Joe Vitale, who is writing the story about Dr. Len, said, you see, total responsibility for your life means everything in your life, simply because it is in your life. It is your responsibility. In a literal sense, the whole world is your creation. If you take complete responsibility for your life, then everything you see, hear, taste, touch, or in any way experience is your responsibility because it is in your life. You've called it in somehow. That means every terrorist activity, politics, the economy, or anything that you experience and don't like, it is up for you to heal. And as far-fetched as that sounds, because the first time I heard about it, I was like, yeah, what? There is a spiritual basis to it. Because what we teach is that we are all interconnected. Therefore, what is affecting one is affecting all. It's like the spider web. Something moves on a spider web here, and the whole web feels it. The whole web experiences it. Dr. Holmes put it this way: you're united with all. You are one with the eternal light itself. The presence of spirit within you blesses everyone you meet, tends to heal everything you touch, brings gladness into the life of everyone you contact. So let's talk about what that really, really means. That means if I have attracted or if I have created a negative experience or a negative person in my life, it is up to me to clear, Dr. Len called it to clean, whatever old stuff is in my thinking, in my own mind that helped to create it and attract that person to me. By the way, this is also how we train practitioners. You may not know that we have a practitioner class of 12 students right now. Brave. Oh, they're so brave students right now. But I want you to understand that when you go to a practitioner or to a minister, all ministers are practitioners in our teaching. All ministers are practitioners first. So when you go to a practitioner for treatment, the practitioner doesn't do anything to you. They don't do a treatment to you. What the practitioner does is treats their own consciousness, their own thoughts, their own beliefs about whatever the condition or the circumstance that you are experiencing. So first what they do is get very, very clear about their spiritual perfection, healing anything unlike that, because then they can see your spiritual perfection. And from there, the condition can be healed. So that's basically what Ho'oponopono teaches. Dr. Len healed those mental patients by cleaning, by clearing his own mind. He did it by practicing love for himself. In fact, this is one of the things he said. Turns out that loving yourself is the greatest way to improve yourself. And as you improve yourself, you improve the world. So everybody taking a deep breath now. Who's ready to learn a little Ho'oponopono? Yeah? All righty. The method itself is actually quite simple. It involves, I popped it too soon. So it involves a series of statements that you are directing to your higher self. Do you understand what I mean by your higher self? That part of you that is pure spirit, that part of you that is pure life, that has never been harmed, has never been hurt. It doesn't know anything about imbalance or fear or anger. That part of you that is not affected by the baggage and by the wreckage of your past. That's the part that you are addressing in Ho'oponopono. So I want you to envision, if you will, that part of you that is pure spirit. Are you there? It's above, it's at a higher plane. That part of you that is pure spirit. And you say the phrase, I love you. And then you say to your higher self, I'm sorry. Basically, you're apologizing to your higher self for the mistaken thoughts and the beliefs that have been keeping you from growing, that keeping you being stuck. And then you say, please forgive me. Now remember, you're not petitioning something outside of yourself or for somebody to forgive you. You are asking for forgiveness from yourself for the thoughts and the beliefs that have harmed you. And the final step is thank you. Again, you're not thanking something outside of yourself. You're simply expressing gratitude for your life. So again, imagine your higher self. And we don't need to do this out loud, but in your own mind, say, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. When I'm practicing Ho'oponopono, when I remember to do it, I use it as almost a mantra, repeating it over and over again until I feel some relief or clarity. I had a great deal of trouble sleeping last night, and so it was my mantra all night long. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Not to someone, not about someone. I was working within my own consciousness to heal what's inside of me. And when I woke up this morning, I knew that I couldn't give the talk that I had prepared the night before. It was a good talk. I've given it up till this point. But I also knew that what I was going to share about Ho'oponopono was not relevant. Because when I went... In the past 72 hours, there have been 3 acts of violence in the United States. My home country, your neighbor. A dozen or so pipe bombs sent to leaders across the country. A shooting at a grocery store in a mainly black neighborhood. And the massacre of 11 people at a synagogue attending a baby blessing. I heard that one of the victims was a 97-year-old Holocaust survivor. And it would be so easy to be filled with hatred and anger toward those people who perpetrated these acts. It would be so easy to want revenge and justice. And all over the country, this country, down in that other country, I'm sure that there's lots of talk about this. How do we get justice? But I was remembering as I woke up this morning, thinking that I needed to change things up a little bit. I was remembering this quote by Martin Luther King. Hate begets hate. Violence begets violence. Toughness begets a greater toughness. We must meet the forces of hate with the power of love. And yet we can't just sit idly by and do nothing. So why not practice the art of Ho'oponopono, something that's very, very new to so many of us. In practicing, this is what Dr. Len said. The purpose of life is to be restored back to love, moment to moment. To fulfill this purpose, the individual must acknowledge that he is 100% responsible for creating his life the way it is. The problems are not people, places, and situations, but rather the thoughts of them. It requires an appreciation of the real problems that divide the individual first, then everything else second. A house divided against itself cannot stand. So this practice of Ho'oponopono is for us to be able to heal the thoughts and the beliefs that are dividing us from our higher self, from our true spiritual selves. And when we heal that, we are healing the divide in others because we are all connected in love. So I'm going to ask Oliver to come up and do a little noodling in the background. And I'm not going to lead this. I'm just going to relax us just a little bit and then have you do your own Ho'oponopono practice. And the words are right up there. And so if you would, close your eyes. And focus on your breathing for just a few moments. And feel yourself supported by the chair. For these next few moments, there's nothing you need to be doing, nowhere you need to go. This is your work for now. And so bring to mind once again your higher self, the part of you that has been untouched by the grit of life. Understanding that as you are healing any divide within you, you're healing the divide in the world. And so just spend a few moments repeating the Oponopono prayer. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And know that any time that you want, you can return to this healing prayer, as I did last night, over and over again. And slowly begin to bring yourselves back. Having healed the divide within. And when you're ready, open your eyes and be here. Thank you all for being here and allowing me to process a little what's going on within. I love you, and so it is.